Welcome back to the SportsBruiserz Podcast, episode 8 of the series. If you've not seen the previous 7 episodes, there's, of course, a tab or an icon for playlist for podcasts on YouTube, as well as I'll leave a link down below on the YouTube video for this one as well. Go check that out, as well as if you're listening to Spotify, the previous 7 episodes are already listed on there. Go check a look at them if you have not already. And we got some big news, some big things we got to talk about. This one, starting off with the top one we'll be discussing soon, is Mike Tomlin and what happened with him and the Steelers. We also have a recap of the wild card weekend. Great matchup all across the board outside of, unfortunately, talking about Mike Tomlin with the Steelers and Houston Texans. As well as, to me, I think A.J. Brown is done in Philadelphia after a disappointing playoff run for the Eagles, being one and done against a battered, injured San Francisco 49ers, especially losing George Kittle halfway through the game. 49ers still find a way to win that. So we're talking about A.J. Brown, but being gone, I believe, from Philadelphia in this offseason. Now, starting off with the big news hours ago, Adam Schefter reports that Mike Tomlin is stepping down from the head coaching position after 19 seasons with the franchise. Tomlinson finishes his career regular season-wise 193, 114-2, with 2 Super Bowl appearances in 2010 for the second one, and more importantly, the win for the Steelers back in 2008 against the Arizona Cardinals in his second season with the franchise as well. And this is big news. You know, of course, a lot of fans, I think more so for Pittsburgh, and for me, what I've said for a little bit was, I think it was time for Mike Tomlin to move on. And there was reports leading up even to the wild card matchup that he could step down as well. I think as recently, I think it was the day before the game that I've seen reports saying, hey, there's rumors, speculation that he might step down after the season. And not even 24 hours after the loss, he steps down from the Steelers organization, from the head coaching position. Now to know Adam Schefter also report, or it's not Adam Schefter, Ari Mirov, if I said his name right, he had an important note here. He says, Tomlin leaving the organization means the Steelers will retain his rights. He's not fired, of course, with him stepping down. He will take a year off and maybe, now this is this other part he's speculating at least, but maybe take the route of Sean Payton, do TV, and become a trade candidate next season. Who knows how it plays with that, but Mike Tomlin's rights are still owned by the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I want to put a note on there as well. That was reported on top of that. And again, going back to what I said a second ago, I think it was time for the Steelers to, and more so maybe Mike Tomlin, to part ways. This has been similar to what I said about Harbaugh. I think it ran its course. It's certainly been frustrating for the last 10 seasons, at least for the Steelers. There's a team that in their playoff history in the last 10 years has been horrible. It has. It truly has been bad. You have to go all the way back to January 15th, 2017 for the Steelers' last playoff one. That was against the Chiefs. 18-16 was the score. What have they done since then? Well, they got blown out by the Patriots in that conference championship game the next week, 36-17. 2017, the big upset against Jacksonville, 45-42, but Jacksonville was leading by a large sum in that game at some point. You look at in 2020, they lose to Cleveland 48-37. 2021, they lose to Kansas City in the wild card 42-21. 2023, they lose to Buffalo 31-17. Last season, 2024, they lose to Baltimore 28-14. And of course, yesterday, the Texans win 30-6. And again, it was just a very frustrating game last night. The Steelers' offense just could do relatively nothing, and that's why I said all the other playoff games were exciting. They were amazing to watch. Outside of this one, when you had the Steelers, especially in the fourth quarter, allowing 23 points, some of those, of course, 2 touchdowns came off of the defense, pick 6, and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. But this offense especially was abysmal. This team overall, I mean, again, the first 3 quarters, it was close still. 7-6 Houston, still in there, still a tight race. And then it got the doors got blown off in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't even close after that. When you look at the box scores here, Aaron Rodgers for the game, 17-33, 146, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. The running attack was very non-existent at all. 12 carries, 43 yards. Your leading receiver was DK Metcalf, 2 catches, 42 yards. Now, I don't want to give too much praise to the offense for Stroud because Stroud played horrible in this one. It was all on the defense. The defense just swarmed the offense and just suffocated them in this one. They did, again, the pick 6, which was, I think, Rodgers' last pass thrown in the game. It could potentially be his last throw in the NFL. as well as earlier in the game as well, the fumble recovery for a touchdown. Again, it kind of blew things wide open in that one. You do look at the Houston running game. It was Woody Marks, 19 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. The leading receiver without Nico Collins that did get hurt in this one. Christian Kirk, 8 receptions for 144 yards, 1 touchdown on 9 targets. Collins only had in the game 3 for 21. Your second leading receiver was Gene Higgins, 3 for 39. And again, this was just, I think, just a nice summary of the Steelers. And I think it's been the frustration, not just for this year, but just for years prior. And I've said before, the Mike Tomlin record of not having a losing season is very overrated. It does get overrated when you do absolutely nothing in the playoffs since 2017. If you have to go, again, going back to the record for that, what they've done in years prior, it's very frustrating. It is, like I said, January, the 2016 playoffs, or 2017, I guess that year-wise, if you can't even want to be technical, January 15, 2017 is the last time they won a playoff game, and it's been bad since. It has been, and it's just, like, again, I think the standard of what the Steelers have been before and what it is now is polar opposites. The bare minimum, what I feel like the last few years now is just barely get in, 9-8, 10-7, and just get in the wild card, and that's it. Doesn't matter if you get blown out, you're just doing the bare minimum. You have a winning record, and you make the playoffs. It's good enough, and you keep that record alive. And that's the frustrating part where, yes, it gets overrated at that point, and I think it just, for me, I don't care about the record at all when you're not doing anything in the playoffs and you're getting embarrassed consistently in the wild card game. And I think maybe that was needed last night for things to change, for maybe Mike Tomlin to step away, or the Steelers to go in a different direction. Whoever initiated truly for that conversation, I think it's best for both parties to go into a different direction. I think many fans I've seen, especially for Steelers fans and so forth, on social media, at least what I've seen, at least, could be completely wrong, maybe the vast majority, one mistake is just they got frustrated with Mike Tomlin and just how things have been. Again, when I look at the team records, especially the last few years, you go, I mean, let's look at past 2016. Let's go from 2017 plus. So 2017, you went 13-3. That was the upset one against the upset loss to Jacksonville. So 13-3, 9-6-1, 8-8, 12-4. Okay, 9-7-1, 9-8, 10-7, 10-7, 10-7. Outside of 2020 and 2017, it's just been the bare minimum, and we're giving praise. Congratulations, you went 8-8 in the year. You went 9-6-1 in the year. You had a winning record, and it gets overrated for that one again when you're not making the playoffs or you're doing absolutely nothing in the wild card. And I think there was a point that something needed to change for Tomlin. And I don't want to bash Tomlin too much because I still think he is of course still a great head coach. But I think it was time for the Steelers to go into a different direction. I think maybe it should have happened a year or two ago that something had to change. I think they've done the best they could. I'm not putting all on Tomlin. Of course, it goes to the higher ups, the front office, and so forth, the players, especially the quarterbacks that they get for him. But I think it was time for Tomlin to go into a different direction. I think certainly he will take some time off after a long 10-year career with the Steelers. And again, it's a crazy offseason with Harbaugh, 18 years with the Ravens, gone. Tomlin stepping away after 19 years, gone. And it's again, that's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be certainly very weird to watch in 2026 when the new season starts and we see both these teams match up, especially, and both these guys aren't on the sidelines, and it's people completely different. It's going to look really weird for that one. I mean, you have to go back to 2007 when he first started, or 2006 when he wasn't with the Steelers. It's insane to think about that. But I think it is time, no question. Even if he does want to take time off, I think he does jump up, above Harbaugh in the coaching search. No question about that. I mean, Harbaugh's already going to be sought after. He's already got interviews with, looks at the running mates so far, or the leading favorites that was reported yesterday, or I think earlier today. I think it was yesterday. I posted it with the Giants and the Falcons, which I have as my top 2 picks as well for destinations too for him, and. No question, Tomlin jumps him, and everyone's going after him, just like Harbaugh will or has. I think at this point, everyone's going to go after Tomlin. Everyone raves about Tomlin. If you want to talk about former players and in the sports media and so forth, everyone loves and raves about Mike Tomlin. So there's no question about that. People are going to go after him, and if they have to trade from, they're going to give up whatever it takes from. If they can get a deal done, they're going to bring in Mike Tomlin because of the pedigree he has, the respect that he has throughout the NFL. No question, he is going to be highly sought after, obviously, for that. For destinations, I can't tell you where it is. Again, I don't know if he wants to jump back into be a head coach next season, or he wants to maybe take a year off. Like I said, that was reported with the rights. Maybe he wants to take a year off, go on TV, and feel some things out and see how things look after next season's, the next off season, and see what opens up for him. But yeah, again, I think it's unfortunate because I don't want to bash Tomlin too much. Again, I think he's a great coach. It just ran its course in Pittsburgh. I think there was changes that need to be made, and just again, there is more to it than just Tomlin. Like I said, the front office, we look at especially quarterbacks with Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was horrible this year, but again, there is no long-term answer. Ever since Ben Roethlisberger left, there has been no clear long-term answer. Of course, that was supposed to be Kenny Pickett. Didn't work out, obviously, with that. And you look at more so, you may put that on Tomlin with the offensive coordinators, so with Matt Canada, that people despise. They did not like him at all. And you bring in Arthur Smith, that I did not like. I don't think he deserved to even get a head coaching job from Tennessee. I don't think it's that hard to call running plays for Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs we've ever seen, in my opinion. He mismanaged the talent, especially offensively, for the Falcons that had Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. And now he was given the helms at the offensive coordinator spot with the Steelers, which again, very lackluster, horrible last year under Russell Wilson. A little better this year, but it's getting very inconsistent on that side of the ball, and is still getting still getting interviews for head coaching positions. Why? It boggles my mind. Him and Matt Nagy, I don't know how they're getting interviews, is beyond me. I don't understand it at all. But going back to Tom again, what I keep saying over and over, I think it was time, and I'm sure it hurts. It sucks, especially for Steelers fans that have watched this guy for 19 seasons be the head coach, lead him early on into the Super Bowls. Again, winning one in 2008, missing the playoffs the next year in 2009, going back to one in 2010. But after that, it's just a huge drop-off from 2010. It is. Ever since then, you've only advanced past the wild card twice. You look at in 2015 when they lost to the Broncos in the divisional round, as well as maybe 3 times. Sorry, if you want to say they didn't play in the wild card in 2017 because of seeding, of course. But you look at 2015 where they advanced to the divisional round, 2016 when they made to the conference championship, and then essentially we're one and done, but we're in the divisional round against Jacksonville. Outside that, again, it's been horrible, and the Steelers have to do something. They had to do something. Again, whether Tomlin felt that way, he wanted to step away, or the Steelers just wanted to go into a different direction. Yes, it sucks. You might have a losing record this upcoming season, 2026. But I think it needs to happen. You have to get your franchise quarterback. If they're trying to swing for the fences this year or wait for next year, if they do bad and they have a higher draft pick, it needs to start over. We can't keep trying to just put Band-Aids on the issues and just find a new quarterback every year. Find an old veteran quarterback to lead the team, and the next year find another recycled quarterback, and the next year after that find a recycled quarterback, and just do the bare minimum. Something needed to change. And again, maybe in hindsight, you're gonna look back at this and go, maybe this was the best thing that happened to the Steelers, is get blown out by the Texans. And right now for them, absolutely horrible. It's embarrassing. I'm not saying that people should be happy with that. Maybe if you're on the certainly on the side of you want a time on fire, you probably love this because this kind of just really put the nail in the coffin for that. But again, I think this was just the frustration, not just for yesterday, but for years prior and how things have been, just barely getting by, being good enough to not be a bad team and miss the playoffs and having a decent draft pick, but not good enough to really do anything in the playoffs. It sucks, again, regardless of how I felt about Tomlin, thinking that something needed to happen. He needed to be moved on from, whether they wanted to fire him or he decided to just, I'm sick of this. I want to try something different, or I want to just relax. I don't want to be a head coach for a little bit and take some time off. It still sucks to see Mike Tomlin gone. And like I said, between him and Harbaugh, it's going to be weird. It is. It's going to be certainly very different not seeing those two guys on their respective sidelines when they coach, when those teams run out in 2026. Again, we'll see what happens with him, but no question. Even how I feel about him, well, I said a few minutes ago, he's the number one prospect. He's the number one candidate for head coaching. Everyone's going to do anything to get him. If they have a trade from him, who cares how much it costs? Because again, the respect, the pedigree, and what he has and what he's done for the Steelers, people are going to run and grab that as quickly as possible if they can. If they can agree on a deal to bring him in, no question about that. So again, we'll see what happens in this offseason. I don't know how much is going to happen with him. I mean, it's only have to more look at Harbaugh with his coaching search, and that's something more interesting what happens with him. Tomlin, we'll see what that. Again, if he wants to take time or he wants to jump back into head coaching in 2026, we'll find out with that one. But no question, everyone is on that list. No question about that. So wrapping it up with Mike Tomlin, let's start with the 2025-26 wild card round for the playoffs. Again, everything was phenomenal. And we'll get to the divisional round in a second. It was amazing to watch. Outside, again, unfortunately, the fourth quarter of the Texans-Steelers game, which was, before that was ugly. It was very brutal to watch, just how bad C.J. Stroud and the Steelers' offense was. But, again, overall, amazing. The Bills and Jaguars game was phenomenal to watch. Josh Allen getting battered, getting hit, constantly having injuries in that one, and still finding a way to win. Very exciting between him and back and forth with Trevor Lawrence. That was a great duel, no doubt. Chargers and Patriots was a little bit lackluster, and that something goes to the topic of Justin Herbert. I know it's not on him because the offensive line was horrible with injuries and so forth. Greg Roman just got fired today. He's a bad OC. But you do question Herbert with where he's at in his career right now in the playoffs. He's 0-3. This is a guy that it's not all on him, of course. It's a team sport. I know people are going to run to the comments. Say it's a team sport. It's not wins and losses, not a quarterback stat. I get it. But when you look at the resume, like we do for other quarterbacks, like Lamar, Josh Allen, if you want to say maybe Trevor Lawrence, other people, however you want to put it as for the quarterbacks you want to pick out. You look at for Herbert, what team has he been part of? Well, he was part of a few years ago, a huge collapse against Jacksonville, up 27 points and blew it. And again, he doesn't play defense, I get it, but he didn't do enough on offense to put more points on the board to put the Chargers in the win column. So they blew a 27-point lead. You have last year where he played horrible against the Texans, where he threw 4 interceptions in that game. They lose that 32-12. Have the box score right here, real quick. We have Herbert was 14 of 32, 242, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, was sacked 4 times in that game. Complete blowout, and that one 32-12. So you do have that, and of course, like we said, we have not last night's, but 2 days ago for the Chargers on Sunday night, where they lose. I don't know why it's not resetting for this one. Here it is, losing 16-3. Joining the Pittsburgh Steelers and not scoring a touchdown in the playoffs thus far. You look at Herbert in this one, 19 of 31, 159, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, sacked 6 times. Offensive line, horrible. I mean, the Slayer injury is obviously has shown, and not just for this game, but games prior throughout the season, a big part in that. The running game was brutal this year. Marion Hampton did have injuries, of course, throughout the year. Najee Harris was lost early on in the season, but Marion Hampton being a first-round pick, only having 545 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. Not the best, only played 9 games, though. Again, was injured for a decent part of the regular season, but still not that crazy in this playoff matchup here. When we go back to, again, the box score here, Justin Herbert was also your leading rusher, 10 carries for 57 yards. Lamb McConkey was your leading receiver, 3 for 32. So, of course, yes, everything that is not on Justin Herbert. Offensive line has to be better, has to get a better OC. But again, when people look at and bash Herbert, they're going to look at the playoff performances, go a big collapse, his first playoff game, throwing 4 interceptions and getting blown out against the Texans last year. And then, just getting straight up beat up by the Patriots in this one, but failing to score a touchdown. And fair or not fair, again, team sport. But people are going to be looking at that, and you do kind of wonder what's going to happen with them in this future. I do think that they will turn around eventually, but as right now, not a good look for Justin Herbert in his playoff career. As of right now, a lot of people are bashing him, of course, because of just this game and again prior his history in the playoffs. And again, it's not just on Herbert. You have questions about Josh Allen. Can he finally go over the hump and make the Super Bowl with no Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, and he certainly aced the first wild card matchup. Now we have to see what he does against the Broncos and so forth. Other aspects too on top of that. So you have other question marks for our quarterbacks. So it's not just solely on Justin Herbert's the only quarterback getting criticized. There are other ones too, but you just see how people, again, fair or unfair, the quarterbacks are being viewed as, because of them being obviously the most important position on the NFL, or on the field, I should say. So again, a little bit lackluster one, a little bit of a boring one for the Patriots and Chargers. But we move to the NFC. Very exciting. I thought the Panthers were going to upset the Rams 31-34. I was really pulling for them. I was pulling for that Cinderella story. If you want to see the early 2010 Seattle Seahawks upsetting the Saints in that one, and Matthew Stafford found a way. Led a game-winning drive. Done deal. Defense did its job for that. Rams move forward with them, but definitely a scare, no question. I did pick the Rams to go in the NFC side to go to the Super Bowl. Very shaky, and they've been like that at times in the regular season. You look at the Panthers beat them earlier this year against the Rams at Carolina too. On top of that, and you felt like it was going to be a repeat again. Rams find a way to pull together and win. Little shaky, but I still picked the Rams to move forward. Still, it's going to be a difficult matchup against the Bears, no question about that. Caleb Williams is certainly didn't really do too much in the first 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, kind of just flipped a switch and balled out in that one. That 4th and 8 they had late in the game to Roman Dunze on the sideline, magnificent. And what he was able to do in that fourth quarter, got all around for the whole team, was insane to watch. That's going to be a very exciting game to watch in the divisional round. That is on January 18th at 6:30 p.m. on NBC or Peacock to watch that. And Rams in that one too are 3.5-point favorites too, if you care about betting and all that stuff. But again, Panthers and Rams to kick off the wild card matchups was great. Sucks to see Carolina kind of fall short in that upset, but still a very exciting game to watch. Bears and Packers, it looked like the Packers were going to run away with that, and like we said, Caleb Williams just put his magic on in the fourth quarter and came back and just pulled together. Big collapse by the Packers. Speaking about Herbert and that one, bashing him overall for Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, where you want to put it as for the blame for that, it's more so Matt LaFleur. Packers collapsing on that one after doing a great job the first 3 quarters against Caleb Williams, falling apart in that. You look at what happened in that game. The Bears scoring 25 points. Pull the Houston Texans in that one, scoring 25 points in the fourth quarter after only scoring 6 the first 3. Insane. Absolutely insane. The Packers were leading at one point 21-3, and it just the rest is history in the fourth quarter and what they did there. Awesome game to watch. It was amazing. Hopefully, if you stayed up for the game, you got to witness greatness in that one. If you fell asleep early, sucks that you missed that game. Probably watch the highlights for that one, but again, that was a great game to stay up for and watch, as well as the 49ers and Eagles, 23-19 the score, and we'll get to that, of course, relatively soon with A.J. Brown. But you look at the 49ers, battered, especially offensively. I think they are activating Fred Warner off of IR, if I read that today correctly. Yes, report that Fred Warner is designated to return from IR, or is set to return from IR, so big help from that one too, after having Nick Bosa and other people on the defense out for the year. Huge help to have your all-pro linebacker come back for the playoff run, potentially. We'll see. Not a guarantee yet, but we'll see if he comes back. And I shouldn't be too surprised by Philadelphia, because especially offensively, they have struggled. They've been very lackluster. When you look at what they've had offensively with Hurts, with Barkley, with Brown, with with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, a good offensive line. I know Lane Johnson was out for the game against San Francisco, huge loss, but still, it should have been more enough for them to win. And this is a San Francisco team that was missing George Kittle halfway through the game, sometime late in the second quarter, had to get carted off. It is a torn ACL for him, a torn Achilles they had for that one. Brutal loss. Moving forward, again, when you look at the matchup going against the Seattle Seahawks and that great defense they have, that's going to be a lot to put on Brock Purdy if he can do that. If he can pull away and beat Seattle, huge moment for him, huge legacy, I would say, in part for him. If he can go with Seattle with that defense without George Kittle on the offensive side, he still has Christian McCaffrey, I know, of course, but again, a lot of pressure put on him with another weapon gone for the season. Of course, doesn't have Brandon Ayuk with that whole situation, how they have there and so forth. Still have decent pieces, but again, missing your one of the best tight ends in the NFL, is a huge loss, and still found a way to win against Philadelphia. But it's just Philadelphia fell short. And again, you look at their season leading up to, or the down the stretch, I should say, leading up to that matchup, it was a lot of question marks, especially when you look at Week 18 when people thought maybe they should have played for seeding, and they sat people, lost to Washington 24-17. Maybe they thought they had in the books there that they were going to win that. They did not. The game prior to Buffalo surviving that one, but doing absolutely nothing in the second half, scoring 13 points in the game. Again, offensively did nothing at all. The Bills just kind of shot themselves in the foot in that one. Look at the game prior to that, Commanders 29-18. And that stretch, the last 10 games, they only scored 30 points once, where they shut out Vegas 31-0. Outside of that, outside of Vegas, you have a loss 22-19, loss to the Bears 24-15, loss to Dallas 24-21, and you have 2 wins prior to that, but it's not even that impressive either. 16-9 against Detroit, 10-7 against Green Bay. Down the stretch, this offense has just been very lackluster. No question about that. You've had the controversy, of course, with A.J. Brown, which we'll kind of roll into really quickly with, relatively soon with that one. All across the board with that. It's just a lot of personalities, a lot of voices. Nick Sirianni, not the most likable coach, an asshole, to be frank with him. He really does not help the situation at all. Did not help the offense really at all, too. And you see there's a team that desperately misses Kellen Moore and has done a bad job in replacing him, because Kellen Moore did a fantastic job with last year. You look at Saquon Barkley, 2,000-yard rusher, helped them get to the Super Bowl. He didn't do too much in the Super Bowl, but helped them all the way up into that point. Offensive Player of the Year for Barkley that season. Passing game was okay. Hurts was under 3,000 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He did have a lot in the rushing attack as well, with 14 touchdowns on the year. Most of those, if you want to say the tush push, and you want to discredit that, but still had 14 touchdowns on the ground. Receiving was still good. A.J. Brown was a 1,000-yard receiver still. Devontae Smith, 833 and 8 touchdowns. And again, it worked really well with Kellen Moore. Of course, with him having a great season, he got poached by another team to be a head coach with the Saints. And again, it has not been the same. It's been a huge drop-off since then. And I mean, it's unrealistic to say that Saquon was going to replicate what he did last year. Certainly highly unlikely that was going to happen. Hurts did have a little bit better stats this year, passing over 3,200 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Saquon, big down, again, compared to 2,000 yards, did have a huge down season, which a little over 1,100 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. You did have 2 1,000-yard receivers with the Eagles here. Devontae Smith 1,008, A.J. Brown 1,003, but it was not enough. Again, a lot of controversy with A.J. Brown throughout the season, getting frustrated with his role with the team, not getting enough. Not a lot of looks. Even when he does get the passes, dropping big passes in the biggest moments. We saw that, of course, late in the game against the 49ers, where he dropped the big pass in that final drive for them. And again, it's just too much going on all around here. Something needs to change for the Eagles. And that's going to wrap up the wild card here. Looking at the divisional round real quick before we get into the A.J. Brown situation and rolling into that. Starting from the AFC, you have the number 1 Broncos facing the number 6 Bills, January 17th at 4:30 p.m. You have the number 2 Patriots facing the number 5 Texans, January same day, the 18th at 3 o'clock p.m. as well. You have on the 17th, 8 o'clock, the number 1 Seattle taking on number 6 49ers. And then wrapping up the divisional round here, you have the number 2 Bears taking on the number 5 Rams, 6:30 p.m. January 18th. So these should be absolutely phenomenal. If you just saw what happened in the wild card, no question these 4 matchups are going to be amazing. Especially, I think what you can really look at is the Bears and Rams. That's going to be very exciting to see with Matthew Stafford and Caleb Williams duel it out, especially how it's going to be, more importantly, in the fourth quarter. That's where I think you're going to see a lot of special things happen there, is the fourth quarter. What is going to happen between Sean McVay and Ben Johnson, what they're going to be able to scheme up and what they're going to strategize in that one. Defenses are good as well. No question about that. You look at the Bears, most interceptions in the NFL this season. The Rams certainly have more enough pieces, verse and so forth down the list for that defense as well to get after the quarterback too. So that's going to be, I think, the number 1 game this divisional round as well. Seattle and 49ers, I think, is going to be a great matchup too. It's going to be very, like I said, a lot is going to be put on for Brock Purdy without George Kittle. You look at for the Patriots and Texans. Can that pass rush do what they did against the Steelers to the Patriots? Let's see what that can Drake make handle that stout defense, especially the pass rush led by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, both double-digit sack leaders, as well as you have, of course, a great corner in Derek Stingley Jr. What is D'Amico Ryans going to do for that? And also, can C.J. Stroud just pull together an average performance? Can they do that? Because I don't know if they can win against the Patriots. You can do that against the Steelers because of what we talked about for the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, but you certainly cannot beat I don't think with Vrabel on this Patriots team. I don't think you can keep fumbling and be absolutely bad and win this game. You have to be average. You just got to be average. Not ask anything crazy from C.J. Stroud. You just got to be average and just take care of the football. I think they'll be just fine. And also, too, with the Bills and Broncos, Josh Allen, you look at reports recently with Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers both out for the year with torn ACLs. As right now, the Bills only have 3 healthy receivers on the active roster: Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, as well as Brandon Cooks, and that's it. They're going to have to raise people up from the practice squad. McCole Hartman is in the practice squad, so of course you'll see his name up there as well, on top of who else they're going to bring in. So they are battered at the wide receiver position. Can Josh Allen carry this team once again in the divisional round here? Can James Cook get going? Didn't really do too much in the wild card round against Jacksonville, but they were facing the number 1 run defense in the league. Can they get going against another tough defense with Patrick Surtain and so forth, all Bonito as well? So it's going to be very difficult for the Bills. No question about that. It's going to be a difficult matchup. It's going to be a gritty game like it was against the Jaguars. And now to see, again, the injuries, they're not big names, prominent names that maybe some people even know of, especially Tyrell Shavers. Some people might know Gabe Davis, of course, going back to the 13 seconds game with what he did. But losing already a average at best wide receiving core, losing Gabe Davis, losing Tyrell Shavers with torn ACLs is already brutal enough. Josh Palmer is out for the year because he was put on IR last week, so that's another receiver down. You have uncertainties with Kincaid. His health is up in the always up and down, so you're always on the edge of the seat with him as well. Hopefully they can get back Ty Johnson in that running back rotation as well. Hopefully that James Cook can get going and can get back to what we know him to be, the all-pro running back he was. Again, it was a very difficult matchup against Jacksonville, number 1 rush defense. Hopefully it's just from here and up for him as well for that running game, because Josh Allen is going to have a lot on his plate to try and overcome another great defense in the divisional round. So we'll see. Again, very excited to see this divisional round matchups all across the board here. And then finally wrapping up with A.J. Brown, going back to what I said about Philadelphia and saying something needs to change. I do believe A.J. Brown is done with the Philadelphia Eagles. You look at, again, the antics, especially just demanding the ball, wanting the passes thrown to him, the targets and so forth, even with him being the lead, leading the team in targets still, even with him still complaining about all that and not getting the ball, he led the league with 121 targets. It's still not enough. Still not enough for A.J. Brown. And at this point in time, I think it's ran its course. You've done the best that you can with them. And I think they've done that. I think they split up pretty well. A.J. Brown, 121 targets. Devontae Smith, 113. I mean, again, you have to share the ball around. It's not just you, A.J. Brown. It's not just you. You also have a really good running mate in Devontae Smith. You also have Dallas Goedert, who had 11 touchdowns, led the team in touchdowns receiving. You also have Saquon Barkley, even though Saquon Barkley he had 50 targets as well. You got to add him as there too. On top of, you have to use Saquon Barkley in the running attack as well. You have to use Jalen Hurts a little bit in the running attack as well. So it's not just you. It's a lot of pieces on the offense, and it worked well with Kellen Moore. And again, I think at this point in time, something needs to change. It's a huge disappointment going from Super Bowl champions, trying to defend your title, to one and done the wild card round. Something needs to change moving forward. And I think one you can look at is certainly not Nick Sirianni. Well, how do you feel if you think he deserves to be fired and gone because you're sick of him and how he acts? Is not going to happen. A.J. Brown, keep saying Devontae Smith, I'm sorry. A.J. Brown is gone. I think he's been more trouble than he's worth at this point. He's dropped some crucial passes, again, especially late in the wild card game, wide open. It's easy catch for a caliber of a receiver he is. Drops it, and again, I think it's just the antics and so forth enough is enough. They've got their Super Bowl out of him. They went to two appearances, one Super Bowl champion last year. He helped in that case, of course, throughout his career with Philadelphia. You've gotten the best you can out of him. He's been a great player for you on the field. But at the end of the day, I think for Philadelphia, that's one big change you have to look at. If you want to say just because of the financial reasons, if you want to say just because of just his antics and so forth, something needs to change and they have to move into a different direction. They fired their offensive coordinator too today as well, alongside the Chargers, like I said, with Greg Roman. So there is changes coming, but I would say certainly for Hyatt Roseman, look at A.J. Brown in the trade market. You're probably going to get a good premium for him. There's going to be teams that are going to be a little bit desperate to get a high caliber receiver in A.J. Brown. They're looking for that wide receiver one. I think you're going to get a pretty penny from in trade value. I don't want to maybe go say first round pick. Maybe, who knows, maybe a team is a sucker enough to do that if you want to look at that case of a first round pick being too high for A.J. Brown, but he's still a great wide receiver. You're going to get, I think, a good package in return for him and use those assets to maybe flip that to get another wide receiver if you want to trade for one, or in the draft again and draft another wide receiver to start the process, getting a hopefully less antics, certainly cheaper on the salary cap, and see what they do from there. But at the end of the day, he's the number one player. They're not going to move Jalen Hurts. They're not going to move Devontae Smith. They're not going to move Saquon Barkley. Nick Sirianni's not gone. They did move away from the OC, of course, which he rightfully so, because his offense was just mediocre, I think, and certainly did not live up to what they should be with given the money they've given out to players and the caliber of players they have offensively. Enough is enough. I think the antics of I think the antics are just bothersome at this point. The team does not need these distractions, as well as reports a while back between him and Jalen Hurts, however you want to feel about them as well. But again, there's a lot of people out there that are going to go after A.J. Brown. And again, you're going to, I think, get a pretty good premium package in return for assets, for, if you want to look at just for trade value or for draft picks. People will throw a decent amount at him. No question about that. Still a great receiver. Someone else will take on the headache for a little bit, move off of him while he still can with his age and so forth, and still being a good receiver, even though he barely passed over 1,000 yards receiving this season. Still good enough to move off of him at this point here. And if things still have issues there, maybe then you can look at next season when it's all over and there's still problems there, that maybe you look at Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts. I mean, there's a lot of question marks all there. So people throwing reports out there saying that they have to run a basic offense because Jalen Hurts can't do it. I think I don't buy that too much. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback, but I think it's kind of throwing a lot of shade at him, saying he can't do anything more than that. But again, a lot of things with the Eagles right now, with Sirianni, with A.J. Brown, with Jalen Hurts, and so forth. How they are, it's got a lot of characters, a lot of personalities on this offense, and it worked well. Worked well last year. Super Bowl champs, blew out the Chiefs in that one. But at this point in time, huge letdown. Something needs to change. A.J. Brown is my number one option. No question about that. That is someone that will be at the top of the boards for players that people are going to be going after, and should be no shock at all once that is announced that he is traded to whoever for whatever in return. But again, A.J. Brown's tenure with Philadelphia, I believe, is over. He's been, I keep saying over and over again, he's been more trouble than he's worth at this point here. You look at it from prior years too, again, still has value. It's going to be, I don't want to go as far as say Stephon Diggs with antics like that. I mean, if you want to believe the Bills side of things, of how it ran its course there too, they wanted to start over somewhere else. But look at what he's done in Philadelphia. It's been great, but it's gone down each of the last few years. Now more, not just on him, but just how the offenses ran, especially with Saquon Barkley being there. But look at his first year there, almost 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns. The year prior, just under 1,500 yards as well, 7 touchdowns, and there's a little bit of a drop off from 23 to 24, a little over 1,000 yards, 1,079, 7 touchdowns, and then this year just barely over 1,000 yards, 1,003 and 7 touchdowns. So he's still giving you a good, still doing really well in the touchdown category. He is. If we do kind of quick math here, 32 touchdowns the last 4 seasons. That's great. Yeah, 21. Yeah, 32. Just making sure my math's right. 32 touchdowns the last 4 years. Really well. Receiving yards at the first year was great, but it has dipped down again because of just how they run the offense differently with Saquon Barkley being the last 2 years. And you look at the average yards per reception, going back from 22 down, 17, 13.7, 16.1, 12.9, the lowest it's been during his Philadelphia Eagles tenure as well. And again, I think at this point, It's ran its course. It's okay. It happens. People like this, they don't last forever for a team. It's just, you got to take full advantage. You got to strike when the iron's hot with a team like this and cash in as much as possible. And they went to two Super Bowls. They won one. And again, can't be upset if that was the final game for AJ Brown. How do you feel about, especially for Eagles fans, how do they feel about him if it is the last time you see him and once it's announced that he is gone? In terms of right now, the feelings might be great, happy that he's gone. If you want to call him, maybe it goes as far as say cancer in a locker room, but people will look back and say it was fun to watch AJ Brown play. It was a good move, regardless of how you feel how it ends. I look at it from the perspective of Stephon Diggs. When he left, people were bitter about him, people bashed him and so forth. And I think it's wrong because, especially now when you look back, it was fun. No doubt he did put the Bills over the hump in terms of not Super Bowl wise, but put him into a different category of now being a Super Bowl threat and a caliber team like that and helping Josh Allen progress. You look at AJ Brown helping them, obviously, for them actually getting to the Super Bowl and winning one. So he benefited and helped with the quarterback position with Jalen Hurts, as well as the team elevating them into a better spot, similar to Stephon Diggs. Again, unfortunately for the Bills, did not make a Super Bowl appearance with Stephon Diggs, but certainly helped Josh Allen in his growth and helped the team be better than just barely getting the playoffs and not being taken seriously to one of the top teams in the NFL. And you look back and it was with fond memories, at least for me, for Diggs, and it was fun watching. How do you feel about the antics on the sidelines and him tweeting out stuff? It was still fun to watch Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs play alongside each other. And I do feel the same way, too, eventually, that we will look back with Hurts and A.J. Brown. It was fun to watch these guys play alongside each other and what they accomplished. And actually, unlike the Bills, got to throw shade, unfortunately, for myself being a Bills fan, getting to a Super Bowl and actually winning one. And they accomplished that. So, no hard feelings. I get what I said, me going as far as say just a second, call him like a cancer if you want to go as far as say, but certainly distraction, very vocal. Regardless how you feel about that, it was a great run for him in Philadelphia. Turned his career, certainly had a lot more success compared to Tennessee. We see how two different directions Tennessee has gone in the last 4 years as opposed to Philadelphia these 4 years. Again, great run for him. You'll forever be immortalized there with the championship win. It's okay. Move off of them and start fresh with another wide receiver. Again, if you want to trade for another one or draft one in the upcoming draft, we'll see what happens with that. And it's going to wrap it up there. Again, quick topics for Mike Tomlin, the wild card recap, as well as AJ Brown, my thoughts with that one. That's going to wrap it up here for this one. We'll next time probably when we make the video there, we'll probably be recapping the divisional round and seeing how that played out for this one, as well as other top news that comes out from here till then. So with that being said, I appreciate if you guys stayed around watching it. Again, if you have not seen the previous 7 episodes, you can see a playlist on my YouTube page as well as Spotify, which is already downloaded there. If you have not followed me, I appreciate to give a follow to YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, and so forth there. If you enjoyed my content, you wanted to listen more or read more on Twitter as well. So again, thank you enough for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.